Hello, everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of Inside Thrustmaster Esports. Today, I'm very excited because we're diving back into the world of rally. I am Josh, your host, but joining me today is Max Smarts. Now, if you are a follower of the world of rally, you will probably recognize the name. But for those of you who don't, he is, of course, the winner of the FIA Rally Star African Continental Final and is, of course, now racing in Europe. In today's episode, we're going to find out a bit more about what goes on in the mind of someone who is racing in real life when it comes to kind of the off-road and rally stuff. We'll dive a little bit into his background with esports and perhaps drop some similarities or some competition between himself and John Armstrong, who we obviously spoke to earlier this year. But with that being said, Max, thanks so much for joining us today. How are you doing?
Hey Josh, thanks so much for having me on this show. It's really good to be here, and I'm very well in sunny Cape
Awesome.
Town.
Yeah, exactly. You're in a nice sunny part of the world. So Max, the first question I like to dive in with everybody here is, I want to know about your kind of introduction into sim racing. Now, for a lot of us, obviously, this is something that is a passion for something that we try to pursue the real world of racing, but can't quite get there. You've obviously done very successful, but I'd love to know. Take us back to day one. What was the journey for Max in sim racing?
So day one, like getting into sim racing would have even started before getting behind a sim steering wheel. Like my spark and love for rally started like way back in 2009 with the Colin McRae Dirt 2 game, that came out. And like I just loved it so much because you were like doing a world tour around the whole world. You like the menu of the game was in the service park. There was such a vibe, and then you go out to the stages and go for it. And I just thought it was so cool. Um, and then like many years later, my dad and we actually built our own simulator at home. We got like plans online to build a rig out of wood, and then got like before I was sponsored by Thrustmaster, Thrustmaster wheel and pedal set up for it. And we played like both the circuit racing and the rally. But for me, I just love the change, the challenges of the stages, and just going out and rallying over the circuits at the time, So, I mean, same now. I love that about rally. You're out in the world and like pushing a car to its limits on stages, just listening to pace notes. It's beautiful.
No, amazing. And I like the fact that you built a rig out of wood that's very environmentally responsible of you. So I'm very impressed. But I mean, what was it about? Because, I growing up played a lot of games and I'm sure you did, whether it was, Call of Duty, Apex Legends, anything else really. What was it about racing games in particular that kind of took your interest over the rest?
So for me, like I have like grown up in motorsport. Like I actually grew up on motocross bikes. I started riding at like 2 years old. My dad taught me how to like do throttle control on his scooter, and I'd ride with him on the back, and he was teaching me like throttle on, throttle off, and I couldn't even reach the brakes. I could hardly walk. and then from there, went into motocross and just like loved that. It was like a really big passion of mine, and started competing in it. And I think for me, like just the racing was like I just loved that. The motorsports and pushing your limits. Going against
Mhm.
others, the competition. And for me, I think something that also probably gravitated me to rally was the dirt. Because I came from bikes on dirt, and it was just like a surface that I grew up on. I loved it. So that's how I think my motorsports went into like sim racing and more the racing side of games. I still did play Call of Duty and like a bit of Fortnite and stuff like that. So, but definitely was like what have spent my most amount of time on.
No, it's really interesting because obviously speaking to John Armstrong and previously and now yourself, there's a pattern which I feel is kind of there with people who are competing in rally, which is that competitive element of being more where it's kind of your sole responsibility for the result of what comes out of it. Now, obviously you've got your kind of co-driver navigator, but what I mean is it's not a game like Apex Legends where you've got a squad of 4 or 5 of you who can come together, or even FIFA or something like that. Were you always someone who kind of wanted to be, I guess, for lack of a better term, kind of responsible for your own competitive results, be that good or bad?
Yeah, that's actually so funny that you mentioned that because, like, I remember as a youngster, like, I would love to stand on the motocross bike, but like, take me to a roller coaster where I'm not the one in control. I'd be like, no, 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 And it's similar, like with the competing and stuff, and even in rally, think about it. It's just you against the clock, against elements, against the stage. You and your co-driver and the pace notes that you made on the recce. So it is at the end of the day all in your hands, really. I mean, the co-driver plays a really big part, but it's, as you said, it's like it's your responsibility.
No, definitely. And I guess then my next question would be, obviously you kind of were playing in the dirt from a young age with the motocross, and we'll talk about the transition from two to four wheels soon. But with the world of sim racing as it is these days, there's so many options for what you can do. You can do rally, you can do circuit, you can do trucks, you can do boats, you name it. What is it about? I know you've kind of answered this already, but was there something that really stood out about rally? Because I mean, on a circuit, like Monaco or Mercado, there's still that element of risk, and the barriers are very close. But what is it that kind of tipped you over the edge towards rally fully?
So I think for me, like with rally, was just the satisfaction of getting perfection. Because like if you're on
Mm.
a track and you miss your racing line, like maybe you'll slow down your go off line, or you'll touch the white, or maybe touch the gravel, and with a rally, you stray, like in real life, you stray 20 centimeters off the line, and that's you. So you have to be super precise, and doing that all while listening to pace notes, and like linking corners together and stuff like that. And like, I don't know, I just think I really enjoyed that challenge and that feeling of satisfaction when you get it right, because like there's such a big difference of getting it right and getting it wrong, because when you get it wrong in rally, you stop. You don't like you don't just lose some time. Like, well, you can sometimes, but you know what I mean. It's like a
No,
different world.
definitely, it's interesting. I mean, I've recently been kind of, we were saying just before this started, I've been getting into kind of dirt rally, and then also the new WRCA EA game. And for me, it's weird because it's kind of like that time trial element of you're just having run after run trying to improve. But you're right, it is still very much every run that you do has its own unique challenges, and it's like you say, that margin for error is so much lower. And I know there's a lot of people who are going to be kind of listening along to this who are into rally games or into even real rally, but let's talk about kind of the mental side of it, and the preparation kind of before you step into the car. I mean, obviously you've got your pace notes and that kind of stuff, but what's your mental approach to something like this where the margin for error is so small?
Yeah, like for me, I have like like even before you get to the rally, there's tons of prep that goes into it.
Mm,
You're studying the events like weeks before. Watching every stage, looking for like if there's a rock here on the inside of this corner. Oh, like this is a bit different to normal. How would I note this compared to like the previous rally? Look
mm,
for all the unique little things, and then obviously you do your recce, and even going into the recce, like with rally, it's a sport that like they say, sometimes like 70% of the crashes can happen in recce because you made the wrong notes, and you're driving completely to your notes. So you have to have perfection in them. And then once that's all done, you're on the start line of the stage, you're like got a minute to go, you're about to launch into it. And for me, I really like to, like, I don't know, I do like pre-performance routines, and really get in the
mm.
zone, like I just get my head, like okay, boom, like this is all that there is for me. I have like a whole checklist that I go through, and by the time me and my co-driver Cam, it's 30 seconds, we say, good luck, all the best, and then when it gets to 10 seconds, we put the stage mode on, and at about 4 seconds, you put in, and as you drop that handbrake and the clutch and you go into the stage, there's just nothing else in the world except for the notes coming at you and the road ahead, and for me, that is like the best feeling ever, because everything is like, you have to be super on it, like
Mm.
every reaction you have to just be, you have to be in it, and it's the only way that you can do it. And it's just like, for me, that is the best feeling.
No, it's super interesting because I've watched obviously some of the onboards and stuff from seeing people, and I've always held the opinion that rally drivers are the best driving talent out there. I think if you were to compare them one to one with other kind of verticals, but their eyes in particular, and this is going to sound really quite strange to someone, but if you look at their eyes, they're like open for the full run. Like there's no very little blinking. It's amazing how you guys are almost programmed to just be like fully robotic for the whole stint. It's incredible.
It is so true. You literally just, you cannot blink. Like it is crazy, because like in our last event now in Germany, we did a rally called Lausitz Rally, and like we had one night stage. It was 25 k's, but like there were some really really flat out fifth gear sections through narrow forests. Where you're taking cuts at the same time, and you're putting wheels in ruts, and you're just not lifting. And there's trees like this
Mm.
far from each side of the car, and you honestly feel like you're in a fighter jet. You feel like a pilot. There's there's no other feeling to just flying through a forest like that and then hitting a big jump and then landing and on the brakes and down the gears. Like it is full focus. Everything is super super precise and super thought of. And yeah, no, it's incredible.
Definitely. And in terms of going back to kind of the preparation, again, for for people who are maybe listening at home who are wanting to compete in, whether it's FIA Rally Star or some form of, rally esports competition, what sort of prep work are you doing either in real life that you're bringing to the sim or vice versa? Like what kind of tips could you be giving to people for that?
So for the sim, like it's a little bit different to real life in the way that you can almost like learn stages a bit more,
Yeah.
and practice a lot more. So that is like one thing. Like with me in the esports, I competed in an esports competition here in South Africa called Dirt Rally South Africa on Dirt 2.0,
Mm,
and we had a number of rounds. But like for me, the things that you have to focus on is number one, you have to be really consistent. So make
mm,
sure that your consistency is up there because like esports is so competitive that you will finish a stage and you'll be like not even half a second like behind someone or ahead of someone. It's milliseconds, because
mm,
everyone's like really really on it, and so consistency is a big thing. Putting in the hours is another really big thing. Like at the beginning of this year, I spent countless hours on my sim, and I really enjoyed it, and the satisfaction of just getting faster and faster is really good, and the consistency when you have the speed, it feels
mm.
amazing. You just glide through those stages. Um, so I'd say yeah, like just hours. Make sure you focus on your consistency, and yeah, maybe like competition itself, like friendly competitions, they help
Mm.
you lots. Compete against mates, bring people in, and like see how they differently to see if you can learn from them, like teach them something, and just work together to I don't know get more competitive and stuff like that.
No, I think that's some really great advice, and it kind of leads me on to the next topic, which talking to people like yourself and everyone else that we've had on the show so far, who are, for lack of a better term, kind of top performing athletes in their vertical. Something that I've always been interested in is, for example, I was talking to Sineska last week, who was involved in Apex Legends, and he was saying that once he'd identified he had a kind of really strong talent for what he was doing, trying to find people to kind of practice with and train with was difficult because you're kind of setting the bar so high, and some people are maybe doing this casually as a hobby whilst you're trying to find that pro effort. I mean, again, coming back to yourself, obviously you podiums in your first year and I think 3 of the 4 rounds, and I mean, I guess the question is, how do you know when you're good at something versus being like very good at something? Because I'm sure you're very talented in multiple things, right? But rally obviously standing out.
Yeah, so that's really interesting, because like with motocross, I think I was good, but
Mm,
with rally, like from like word go when I sat in that cross card at the African final, and now gone through a full season racing across Europe with like lots of ups and downs, like
mm,
seeing what I can do, with the amount of experience I have, and I think that's like I have something really special, and you can just feel it, the connection with the car, the like always looking for I can do this a little bit better here,
mm,
and like seeing the little things more in the sport, like the granularity of like how to be better and just like the natural talent that you have in the first place, so like it was crazy. I think I really blew myself away this year in what I've done.
mm.
It is pretty crazy, like it's honestly it's been pretty amazing to perform how we performed with the first year in rally. We put in tons and tons of effort, and like at the same time, like just there was so much natural stuff there to build on, and there still is. I've still got tons to learn, but there's definitely a feeling that you get when you're like, okay, like I can really go far in this, and that's what I want to do.
No, definitely. I was having a look at your backup buddy, which for people who don't know is kind of where they can, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here, Max, but essentially kind of help contribute and crowdfund to support your career. And something that stood out to me on there is obviously you get driver coaching as part of the FIA Rally Star program, and coming back to that with what you were saying there about the kind of granularity and being able to have that you kind of unique feeling of certain aspects of the car, the stages. How much of that do you think is natural and how much of that is learned? And the reason I ask is because, again, thinking about the person who's maybe back at home who's kind of into rally games and wants to take the next step to professional, and they know they can improve, but they don't know how far. Like, what would you say is the gap between natural and instinct, and can you teach some of that stuff?
Yeah, so like for me, it was really interesting with that because like at the beginning of this year, we went into Rally Star and before our like we had a 2 week training camp in Sardinia. At the beginning of the year, we tested the car on tarmac, tested on gravel. We had coaches with us, like both on the pace note side and in the car with us on the stages. And like for me, I'd only driven a rally car once before this. Like almost like 2 weeks just before this. It was my first time ever in a rally car, and like on the training events and stuff like that, like I was pretty quick. Okay, like the natural talent was there straight away to show pace, and
Mm,
that was good. But the one thing that I think, well, I know that I didn't have was consistency. I made a few mistakes at the beginning of this year because there's so many like little things on cars, like that are different to bikes. You have to think so much about like the weight transfer of the car, and how do you like
mm,
manage that to work in your favor, because you can upset that car and it'll do exactly what you don't want it to do. And then as well as that, like to go into all the like little scientific things on like the friction circles of your tires and how you can increase them by, like putting brakes on to make more weight on the front wheels and make them more like grippy, and like using the differentials of the car coming into corners that you're like on an input and then coming out that you're on another input, like on the throttle. And there were so many of those things that I like didn't know, So I would fly into stages, I'd throw the car into corners, like just manage the understeer and go. I mean the oversteer and go for it, But like that can catch you out, and it did catch me out, So after that, I like we had like a little bit of a rocky start to the season, with the consistency, but we completely changed that, after a crash that I had in like the testing for our rally in Austria this year. I was like,
mm,
geez, like I couldn't start the event because the crash had damaged the car too bad, and the event was starting like a day later. And
mm,
I was just like, whoa, like this is heavy, And I was caught out by like surface change on a tarmac event. If you take a cut, it throws dirt on the road, and the dirt becomes like really slippery, and
yeah.
I took a cut like that, and it was just in the wrong place. And yeah, it's just those little things that also experience helps you, But like
Mm,
after all of that, the amount of like training and stuff that I did was immense. I spent 2 months, actually 3 months in the UK. Doing training and many events throughout UK. I did like 2 hill climb days in Scotland and rally in Ireland, single venue rally in England, and like more rally school coaching and stuff like that, just to build those little things and
mm.
build consistency, which we did. In the last like 3 events after that training thing, we literally we didn't touch the car, and our progression stage by stage was massive. We looked at the curve, and it's like just going straight up. So um, yeah, it's really good. So like
No, it's amazing. I
that's what
think,
I'd say.
yeah, you've covered a lot there, which is great, and we'll kind of dive back into some of it. I guess the part that I want to start with that you probably don't want to is that crash, because I think something that I spoke about with John Armstrong, obviously, for those who are listening, will probably remember he had a pretty significant crash. Can't remember where. Well, I remember it was snowing, but I remember it was a big crash. And the question I put to him, which I want to put to yourself as well, is when you find yourself in a situation like that where the car is by all intents and purposes, damaged and can't go on, but mentally and physically you're fine, you're able to continue. What kind of mental toll does that then take where, you've made this error, and like you say, because it's not a road circuit where you can hit a tire barrier and pull it back out, it's a pretty
Mm.
serious replication, for just a minute mistake when you're at such a high level. How do you mentally kind of prepare for when those things go wrong, and how do you kind of then deal with them moving forward?
So like at the beginning of this year, it was like it was definitely a shock to me because it was the like first time that I had crashed a rally car. So like it's sometimes it's things that's going to happen when you're learning, and that's like
Mm,
one way that you can look at it. But then you can also look at it as like, okay, like I can't do this again. I've made this
mm,
mistake. I need to learn from it. Like, and you just analyze it. Like, I think I analyzed that crash in Austria for 2 weeks after. Like just making like why where did I make something wrong back there that caused me to be offline here, and then another thing on top of that is like, if you want to be the best, the best, they don't get disheartened, and
mm,
you have to keep on going. You have to like light that fire inside of you and say no, like this is not me. I will, I will win. I will, you know, build myself back up to be way stronger than I was before that accident. And I'm going to be better for this. That's the type of mindset that I'd say you'd have to have if you want to have like any success in motorsports. Or any athletes really. So
Mhm.
yeah.
No, definitely. I feel if someone's in a bit of motivation, they can clip that last minute and use that for when they wake up in the morning to get some advice from Max. But no, I think you're spot on, and I see similarities obviously in the world of sim racing, whether it's the F1 eSport series or anything at kind of that top level, where guys will get it wrong. Some of them will genuinely break down and cry. Some of them will kind of just go very quiet and kind of, like you say, analytical of incidents. And I think, again, it's a piece of advice for that person who is trying to make their way up the ladder, be it the virtual ladder or the virtual to real, is that you're going to make mistakes and that you need to be able to kind of account for those as well. So in terms of jumping to the real world then, obviously I know we've touched on it at various points. Completely different ball game, obviously, from a competitive element as well. You've got all these kind of personalities around you. Everything's much more present. You can't just turn off the PC once you're done your kind of stage. How was that kind of environment for you taking your first step in, and what does the future kind of hold for yourself in that regard?
So for me, like honestly, going into Rally Star, I was just blown away with the network that we have in that team. And
Mhm.
like one thing that I think that I really love about it is, you have so many people that you work with, and our team, like the bond is amazing. Everyone is super supportive and helps wherever they can, and even amongst the other drivers in the team. Like
Mhm.
in our team, we had one driver from every continent of the world. That's where they were selected from. And just we were all from complete different like areas of the world, and like had experienced such different like traditions in our life, and like we became a family. Like even as competitors, like you'll see like Romet, the Estonian driver, giving like pace note tips to Ania and stuff like that, and then helping each other on like I don't know things like that, and just comparing setup, and like it's really, I think it's really awesome, the real life world, and the team all working together to be better, because we all knew that had to learn this year, as we all came from not much rally experience, so we're helping each other, which is good.
No, that's amazing. And in terms of looking towards, I guess, 2024, obviously I mentioned earlier, there's the backup buddy where people can get involved to kind of support you. But as a kind of bigger picture, what's Max up to over the next 12 months?
So I'm busy, like planning how to get the most out of this junior WRC season. Because for me, that is a really big step up. That's the pinnacle of rally, in the WRC, and we've got like so many different events. Like we've got 5 different events, and like you go from the snow in Sweden of minus 25 degrees. You've got studded ice tires and snowbanks all around you, to the end of the season when you're in Greece. It's like plus 30 to 40 degrees. Really really hot. You're on the rugged mountains with like lots of rocks, a rough rally, and in between all of that, you have completely like unique events. We Rally Finland's another rally that's on the Junior WRC calendar, and that's they call Land of a Thousand Lakes and Land of a Thousand Jumps, and that is one of the most famous rallies. And like for me, just what I find really good about this, and that we're going into like such a like I don't know what's the word, like well known and well recorded series, is that we can study like so many of the past events,
Mm.
and like learn all the little things from the past, and like see where that tricky corner is on this event, and then like just basically soak in as much as we can before we get to the stages, which is I think a really big part of it.
Yeah, and I'd love to dive into that a bit more because I'm thinking, for the sim racer at home who's trying to compete in their next championship, say it's a league race or whatever, like you said, they can watch online on YouTube, onboards and people doing the stages and setup tips and stuff. How do you kind of filter amongst all the information you're being presented to work out what's actually useful? Like, what tips could you give to people when they are watching these onboards, for example, to extrapolate the most out of them?
Oh, okay, that's a good one. So for like sim racing itself, I'd say like you can see in sim racing, like me and the Rally Star guys, we were chasing some records in the new eSports WRC game in the Rally 3, and we'd all take it. One guy would take it, then another guy would take it, and we're doing this after our season. And like one thing that I noticed with that, and just esports in general, is like with how much you can learn the stage, the line is really important. And you can look at one guy's onboard, you'd be like, whoa, I didn't even see that, you know? And it would be like a bit cheeky, but it works. And and I think that that's another thing with the like rally sim world is watching guys that are, you know, really quick and seeing like the lines that they take, because that'll be really like different. So for esports, it's that, and then like with real life, you know, before an event, we'll like literally, I'll go through and I'll just check out the general characteristics of the event, you know, think of like what I want to work on in the event, you know, like my driving things that I want to test, and then possibly some car setup things that I want to test. And then also, like another thing that you can't overlook is like looking maybe at the past where some people have made mistakes, you know, and like know why, because sometimes in rally and an event there's like there could be this one corner that like, you know, like three guys make a mistake on it, and no one knows like why, because it just could have that like something weird in it that throws people off, and you can just put a caution in your notes, you know. And so it's important to know a history of the events that you're doing. So
No, that's great. I think that's super. You know, great advice for the person who is trying to sim race, or you know, even make that jump again, and kind of yeah, like
absolutely.
you're saying there, is really super useful. I guess the next thing I want to talk about is kind of the pressure of competing as well. And I mean, I know we spoke about kind of the mental state when things go wrong, but equally when things are going very well, you know, you're someone who has had a very successful, you know, career with the, you know, the continental final win, and you know, being a South African, you know, a lot of sort of pride to kind of carry there and represent at a competitive level. When you are, you know, pushing on a stage, whether it's real or virtual, and everything is going well, and you know that it's going well, how do you kind of control that pressure to not, you know, spill over? I'm really bad for like, if I'm close to setting a good time, my heart starts beating and I'll make one small mistake and then it's almost like it wasn't worthwhile. I mean, but for someone like yourself, what advice can you give us for like how to kind of control that pressure?
So like I think that like with the pressure, it would be best to control it before you go into the stage, you know?
Mm,
Like for me, I find it best that when I go into the stage, I need to have like a clear mind, and I need to have full focus on exactly this, you know? Like this is important, you know, for me. And like just to like I use pre-performance routines, you know, just to get that mindset of okay, this is me flicking myself on stage mode, not just the car, you know? And like to go in with a clear head, and then like let's say you've got a long stage and as you mentioned everything's going perfect, and like it can be really easy to slip up if you just like get comfortable with it, is, you know, to maintain that concentration. And even another thing that happens like in the like in real life quite often is on a
mhm,
longer stage is, you know, you can get into this flow, you know, everything's just flowing, but sometimes that flow, it feels really nice, but like it's not the best on the clock, you know, you could be pushing hard. And like
mm,
one thing I could say is you need to like also think about managing the intensity that you had from the start to the end of the stage, you know.
mhm.
And that's something that's like really can help a lot with, you know, getting good stage times.
No, that's super useful. I think, yeah, it's that kind of management of expectations, because you're right. When you're in that, and maybe it's different for everybody, but for myself at least, when I'm in that kind of flow state, it's you're thinking less about, you know, what you're trying to do with the car, and more just naturally doing it and kind of feeling the sensations. On the topic of kind of that feedback, and obviously with this being a Thrustmaster show, it'd be wrong not to include it. How has Thrustmaster came into your journey as a racer? What was kind of what's the story behind that?
So Thrustmaster actually, they have been amazing. They believed in my talent before I had even strapped into a rally car ever. You know, I'd only like just I'd qualified at the African final in the cross kart, but was waiting for the training season, and like I had a simulator at home that I was using to like get as much, you know, practice as I could, and like as much like muscle memory as I could and stuff like that, because like obviously rally is a very expensive sport, and to get seat time
Mm,
is it costs quite a bit. And so I reached out to Thrustmasters to see if they would help me get like a better setup wheel, you know, and they actually provided me with like a really world class setup that I set up to be exactly the same as the inside as my Rally 3, you know.
oh well,
Because in South
nice.
Africa we drive a right-hand drive cars, you know, but the Rally 3 in Europe is left-hand drive, and it's like it's not a small thing really, because the spacing on the car is really important. The changing the gears using another hand. So basically what I did is they gave me a shifter and a handbrake, and I set them up that it is exactly like a left-hand drive. So I use my right hand to shift my right hand to pull the handbrake, and then on the car view in the simulator, I put it to the left-hand side of the car, and just doing that like really like helped the muscle memory of changing gears, and pulling the handbrake if you need to, and like the spacing of the left hand drive car, even though it was virtual, it's something that you consciously like had to think about in the beginning, and like did that for was going into the training season. And by the first time I got into a rally car with a sequential shifter and handbrake, the movement was like I didn't even have to think about it. It was
Wow.
like it was unconscious, it was subconscious. It was just like because I'm so used to it on the sim, just pull a gear or bar and like go. And it's that I feel was something that I'm so glad that I did. And on top of that, just with Thrustmaster sponsoring me the setup, I could go and like just spend hours on the simulator, like learning about line choice and things. Because like for me, I played lots in simulator, but now we were like really stepping up another whole level. Okay,
Mm.
and like this Rally Star program is a once in a lifetime opportunity. And like I really from a youngster, like I've always wanted to like do something great, like as an athlete in motorsports and rally. I've always thought is really cool, but like this is my probably my one shot to go for it. And yeah, the amount of hours I've spent on that sim would be crazy to look at.
That's amazing. I've got two questions. So the first one is your sim rig still made out of wood, or have you gone on to something different now?
It's actually still made of wood, eh?
Oh,
I
that is
mean,
amazing. Absolutely amazing. And then the
yeah.
second question, which is probably a bit more serious, but listening to how you're talking there, it's very clear that with you, the simulator has a purpose, and that is, for as a training tool, right? And like you say, in this case, it was muscle memory. Other times, it may be for lines, that kind of stuff. The other thing that I picked up from John as well, and kind of yourself, is that that sense of purpose that your simulator has, and I think it's all too easy for people who are sim racers to kind of just jump in, have some fun, which there's nothing wrong with, but not have a kind of focus and a goal. And I think if you're obviously trying to be a competitive athlete, you need to have that. How do you go about do you plan almost sessions for when you're going in the simulator? What advice would you give there for people as well?
So yeah, I did like just at the beginning of this year when I was really concentrating on the sim. When I was in South Africa, I would like at that time I wasn't working, so
Mm.
it was really easy. Like I was all fully focusing on just getting ready for the season, like training lots of fitness, and reaction times as well as on the sim, and then just learning about rally in general. But yeah, for me, I think that like one thing that if you want to step up in your competitiveness on the sim would be to like find an esports championship, an online one, okay, and just enter it and like do it. And I mean, and the new WRC game are really good for this. You can join clubs that have scheduled events, and it gives you something to commit to, and you need to like train and get better to, and then you can watch yourself step up the ranks. And doing this, I believe, will really help you, and it'll also push you to want to be better when you see the progression that you're finding. And like the competitiveness in sim racing is really high, as you know. So, like, it's a really, really good thing to do if you want to improve, is to compete.
No, that's perfect. I think that's so important because, like I say, a lot of us, can fall foul of kind of just jumping in and not having that full content, and then you kind of come away and go, "Have I actually learned anything from kind of being in the sim?" Which is obviously not ideal if you don't. So that makes perfect sense. I've got to ask: do you have a specific car track combination or car stage combination that you're a big fan of at the moment in the sim?
So yeah, actually, at the moment, I've been playing around with a few different things. Okay, but I am enjoying Greece in the in the new WRC game by EA Sports, and in Greece I've got a stage there called Delphi that I like the other day. I haven't played much on this game, but I was really enjoying it in the Fiesta Rally 3, which is probably the car that I play the most. And then on top of that is I really enjoy the 2000 and I think it's a 2017 Ford World Rally car. Okay, that thing is really quick, and I enjoy that on the New Zealand
Hmm.
stage, the new WRC game. I don't know, you can just throw it into corners and like I don't know. I find it sick. And another thing that I've really enjoyed about this having this new game is like every stage is completely new to me, and the pace notes are actually pretty good in the game.
Oh yeah.
So like to go, yeah, yeah, they're pretty good. And like what I did the other day is like I went and I joined an online competition on it, like just a multiplayer event,
Mm.
and it went to a place that I'd never been in a Rally One, okay? And I was just like, okay, this is like quite a cool challenge, you know? I'm gonna absolutely push as hard as I can and just listen to the notes, and it was so thrilling, you know? It felt like I was on stage, and and I made it through, and I actually won the stage, like with literally, never doing that event or stage before, and that feeling was so good. So I don't know, like that.
Just
I'm
a
really
casual
excited
flex.
for the new game. Yeah.
No, that's amazing. I think from what I hear, obviously when you have that natural talent, I think it's clear that the success that you have and why you have it. I think we've really touched upon as well some great feedback points for people in terms of the pre stage prep, the actual in stage, and even using their sim as a tool for that. So I know we asked it earlier, but just to kind of really cement it home, obviously the next year is going to be a very big one for you, like you say. You've got a lot on and a lot traveling. Will you still find time for the simulator within that? Will the purpose of the simulator kind of change, or will it still be very much a great tool for going back to basics as well?
So for me, what I think is like really cool with the new rally game,
Mhm.
the new WRC game, is that it's got the Rally 3 and it's got all of the WRC events that we're going to be doing next year. So like I'm keen to even if it's like for sake of making like really cool content, to go in and to do the events in the Rally 3 before our like action event, and maybe like see how the two compare, and it'll be interesting for people to see like how the sim world and the real world can collide. So I'm keen for that, and I think that that's something that I really want to do on the like media side of things. And on top of that, even like I spent some time in the UK this year, and I was training, and like was working on the sim with a coach, and it's amazing what you can learn on the simulator, and that was on circuits.
Mm.
Like what you can learn on the simulator about line and about like your braking and stuff like that, and then transfer it straight into real life. Like after that, we went out onto a test track in real life, and like we're learning the same things that we just learned in the simulator, but in a car in real life. And like for me, it's amazing how like the quality of these simulators has got, and like how you can use that to link virtual and real life. So I think that definitely I'll be spending quite a bit of time on this next year.
Amazing, amazing. Well, Max, thank you so much for the time. It's been so interesting to hear about not only your history, but also your impressions of sim racing, and like I say, some really great feedback there for people who want to get involved in kind of sim racing as well. Um, I'll give this space for you now. Is there anything you want to shout out where people can follow you, that kind of stuff as well?
Yeah, no, I think it's like that would be cool because this journey is so unique with Rally Star, and like I think that it's something really cool to follow because like not even just myself but all the drivers in the team, we've come from such different backgrounds, and we're chasing like complete dreams, and like going into the junior WRC for me next year is just it's like another life-changing moment, and to represent South Africa there also is like really special because we've had very few drivers at that level. And like yeah, like for me it's just a complete dream, and I want to make my life out of the sport. So yeah, like all the support net like that I can get, I would love, because like even on the sponsorship side, because like I need to do some more testing and other events outside of the 5JWRC events, because like I'm still on such a learning curve. And yeah, I just would shout out for like anyone who wants to support me out there and help me achieve my dreams to be a champion. So yeah, thanks for that, Josh.
Yeah, no problem. I think the one thing that, to be honest, I didn't really touch upon during this, but I feel is important to raise is the fact that you're 21 years old, right? You're a young lad, and the fact that you've had such success at such a young age, it not only kind of validates the opportunities that sim racing brings for people, but also means that there's one hell of a journey for you coming up, which I'm sure a lot of people will be excited to follow. So they can obviously check out your Backup Buddy if they want to support you there, and on your socials as well. But again, Max, thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Inside Thrustmaster, and we'll wish you the very best of success.
Josh, it is honestly a pleasure. So thank you so much for helping share the journey, you know, and I genuinely enjoyed chatting with you today. So thanks a lot, eh? Bring it back.